afternoon, or evening, or night, or Christmas, or birthday, or Hanukkah, or Ramadan, whenever you're watching this. So last time we looked at 3 pages, and it was in a lot of detail. We're going to look at around 5 pages, because one of them's got like a picture on it as well, so one of them shorter, of text again to the end of Stave I. So we're going to finish Stave I today. And there is going to be a lot of note-taking for this one as well, too. Now, first bit. Scrooge had often heard it said that Marley had no bowels, but he had never believed it until now. This is basically a reference to, thousands of years ago, before kind of modern medicine, and even hundreds of years ago, to be fair. People kind of traditionally said that bowels were what gave people compassion or empathy. And Dickens is kind of referencing that Marley had no bowels, no compassion, no empathy, but he had never believed it until now. So, bit of dark humour there. Think about maybe why that's placed there, that we're trying to lighten the situation maybe. Scrooge is kind of doing that internally. Now, in the next part, it talks about how he fought against his senses. Look here. He was still incredulous and fought against his senses. He's in this metaphorical kind of fight with some kind of personified senses. And he is so desperate for this not to be true. Because Scrooge is not a stupid man. I think he knows maybe where this might lead. He just doesn't want to face the truth yet. Okay? Now, then we move down just a little bit further to the idea of tense being used. So, who are you? Scrooge asks Marley. And Marley replies, ask me who I was. And he says, who were you then? Think about those two auxiliary verbs there. Yeah? Are versus were. Present versus past. So Scrooge asks, who are you? Who are you right now? And the ghost, kind of knowing why he's there and why he's trying to teach Scrooge, says, no, ask me who I was. Ask me about my past. Ask me kind of not just the me you see right now, but the me that goes all the way back to the birth of the character. You know, Scrooge has done so much wrong in his life that it's all kind of adding up all the time. You know, similar with Marley and the keychains and the padlocks and the deeds and all that kind of stuff that was on his chains that we talked about in the last video. Scrooge has got a lot to answer for, so it's not. He's already trying to get Scrooge to think about the past and not the present. Not what have you done today, but what have you done in your life? And again, it's a message for us as readers too. Now we come to Scrooge's second part of fighting his senses. He says, can you sit down? Now I remember the first time I read this, I kind of thought, what a strange question to ask. But if you think about it, the idea of the rational and the familiar that we saw last time is something that Scrooge is kind of clinging to. And if something can sit down in his eyes, it's not kind of phantomous, it's not spirit, it's not spectre. Yeah, it's something that is physical and tangible and therefore alive and real. And he's unsure of what's going on. He wants to test it almost. Now, then we get the ghost directly asking him, why are you doubting your senses? Why are you doing this? Why are you questioning whether I'm legit, basically? And Scrooge says, because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheats. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than grave about you, whatever you are. So Scrooge is, as it says in the next line, he's cracking jokes. He's not in a kind of knee-slapping way, but a trying to comfort himself. Yeah, if I can make a joke out of this, it won't feel as bad and will lighten the mood slightly. You can probably tell it doesn't go well, but there's more of gravy than of grave about you. So he's trying to again work it out. What is the rational reason for this going on? It can't be that this is true. You can almost argue that he wants to have gotten away with it. He wants to have gotten away with what he's done in his life, and therefore not have to go through this horror, basically. Now, later on, We get to this part. Oh, my mouse went really big then. That was weird. He moved. Again, he is refusing to kind of play ball. He's not wanting to be cooperative with the ghost and kind of figure out why he's there. He wants to do it on his own. He doesn't want to have a conversation about it. And, he says, "Humbug, I tell you, humbug." At this, the spirit raised a frightful cry and shook its chain with such a dismal and appalling noise that Scrooge held on tight to his chair to save himself from falling in a swoon. The spirit has got like a bandage around its head, okay? And basically, we now learn that that is keeping his jaw attached to his face. So the spirit goes up in such a kind of a big cry, a big kind of reaction, that the jaw falls off and rests upon his chest. Yeah, pretty horrific image. You imagine seeing that in real life, it wouldn't be nice. Now this makes him fall upon his knees and clasp his hands before his face. Yeah, think about what obviously that imagery is, the religious imagery of kind of mercy. And he even shouts it, "Look, mercy," he said, "dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?" So he's finally asked the straight question of why are you here? Linked to that too is he says, "You are fettered," says Scrooge, trembling. "Tell me why." Now, this is a really good quote here. "I wear the chain I forged in life." Okay, so again, the idea of that past coming back to haunt the future, okay, and the present. "I wear the chain I forged in life." Okay, and obviously, metaphor there. He's not literally, hammering away at a chain every day, and then eventually, when you die, you put it on and go, "Right, kill me." That's not the way it works. It's a metaphor for the mistakes that have been made and for the kind of the wrongdoings that have been done. "I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you?" And again, we get that graphological little hint there of you. Yeah, he's talking to you as a reader and to you as in Scrooge. Scrooge trembled more and more. Now, you may remember a few pages ago, we talked about the idea of the comparative being there. Like it said, foggier and colder, and it was kind of everything was being gradual. There was no kind of superlative, and we're still seeing that. His day is just getting worse and worse and worse, but he's not yet reached that superlative, that complete climax of action. Yeah. So Scrooge trembled more and more. It's still gradually happening, and he's not even at the most trembling he can be. Yeah. The most trembled he can be. Now, over the next kind of page and a half, he again gets a bit too. He steps over the line, basically, and kind of makes a joke about, "You've been dead for 7 years and traveling. I thought you would have gone further, basically, by walking 7 years." Again, he's trying to make himself feel better, to lighten the mood using that comedy. Now the ghost, again, upon hearing this, set up another cry and clanked its chain so hideously in the dead silence of the night that the ward would have been justified in indicating it for a nuisance. So, as in, it was so loud that the police could have come round at this point. Scrooge doesn't really understand what's going on. He doesn't understand why Marley is in such a bad way. "But you were always such a good man of business, Jacob," faltered Scrooge, who now began to apply this to himself. So, finally, he's making the links, like a chain. He's making the links, and he's, the camera's kind of panning to him now. He is starting to realise what is going on. The ghost replies, "Mankind was my business." All right, that is a cracker right there. Mankind was, if I can actually click, there we go. Mankind was my business. Now, if you remember, these are moneylenders, and in Scrooge's eyes, he's dealing with numbers and money, and that's it. But actually, he's dealing with people's lives. He's dealing with whether they can afford to eat. He's dealing with whether they can afford to live and pay their rent or pay medical bills, etc. Yeah? There's kind of an extra layer to it that he hasn't clicked with yet, and Marley's now realised, albeit too late. Think about it in the terms of teaching. teaching is dealing with people. On the face of it, teaching seems like it's marking and teaching for exams, and that's it. But actually, it's there are whole loads of different layers to teaching. There are kind of pastoral things where you just check in with people and check that they're all right, etc. There are different levels to each career. It's not just kind of that first glance interpretation that people have. So he says, mankind was my business, common welfare was my business, charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. Think about the syntax there, slowing it down. Now, at the end of this is a great metaphor. He says, the dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. So if my career, if my job was an ocean, the actual money lending and the actual dealing of the business side and the capital, it was so kind of minuscule and irrelevant to the actual real purpose of the job and the best that you could actually achieve by doing that job and that career. Yeah, it was such a small amount. Yeah, a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. That actually the trade and being good at trade is not doesn't matter in the bigger picture, in the holistic picture. Now, Marley gives a bit of a creepy idea here. He says, how is it that I appear before you in a shape that you can see? I may not tell. As in, I can't tell you why I'm here now or why you can now see me. I have sat invisible beside you many and many a day. And it says, it was not an agreeable idea. Scrooge shivered and wiped the perspiration from his brow. So he's just been told that actually throughout your life, since I've died, I've sat beside you as a ghost, but an invisible one. And I've observed all the things you've done, yeah? If you think about, the idea of being watched and the idea of being observed that closely, and especially for Scrooge that he's done so many awful things, would not really go down well. And it's building up. The tension is building, yeah? Okay, now, this is where he learns, as I'm sure you read, that he'll be visited by 3 spirits. So you get 3 spirits there. Think about the use of the proper noun there as well, really making them kind of alive and living characters, weirdly, ironically. And we learn that actually Scrooge cannot succeed spiritually if he does not meet all 3 and kind of do what they ask almost and learn and change. Now, at the end of the stave, Scrooge is kind of following the ghost, and the ghost is walking backwards slowly. And the window is opening, as it's going to leave. And Scrooge was told not to look out of the window. Yeah? He was told not to approach. And as this thing goes out of the window, look, the spectre, after listening for a moment, joined in the mournful dirge and floated out upon the bleak dark night. Now it says, Scrooge followed to the window, desperate in his curiosity. He looked out. So he hears this haunting sound, this horrible kind of groaning and moaning and kind of the depths of everything you can imagine outside. And he's desperate to see what it is. He needs to know. The air was filled with phantoms wandering hither and thither in restless haste, and moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains like Marley's ghost. Some few were linked together, none were free. Okay? So, he looks out the window and he just sees London covered in things groaning and dragging their own chains. All the wrong things that they have done in life and not kind of rectified. Now, there's a great quote here, look. Many have been personally known to Scrooge in their lives. Now, obviously, we're seeing the link there. He's already started to look internally a little bit, starting to see that, hang on, you were a good business dealer, as he starts to realise, oh yeah, so am I. But the idea that so many of the people who are horribly in pain now and constantly tortured forever, basically, were personally known to Scrooge. we can get the idea that he's next, unless again he changes. Key theme. Now this ends, and Scrooge then goes straight to bed without undressing and fell asleep upon the instant. So it's all been so exhausting, he just falls into his bed and falls straight to sleep. And that is where the stave ends. Cool. Right, that is it for today. Any questions? Let me know. Bye!